Hello and welcome to the ClubLIFE Podcast. I'm Darren Flynn, the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at Clubs New South Wales. Our guest today has enjoyed a near 30-year career in the club industry, and his journey has been varied to say the least. He's worked at a Catholic club and a Jewish club, a leagues club and a rugby club, and today he's the CEO of the largest workers' club in New South Wales. Scott Bennetts is the CEO of Revesby Workers' Club, a club with a proud history of diversification and commitment to community. It's been a fascinating career so far, so let's jump right in. Scott Bennetts, welcome to the ClubLIFE Podcast.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
You spent your entire career in and around clubs and the hospitality industry. Were you destined for a career in clubs, do you think, or did you want to do something else when you were younger?
Well, I was actually doing a commerce degree in Wollongong, specialisation marketing. Never actually used it. Paying my way through uni, I was at a club and I kind of just stuck there.
It's a pretty common story, to be truthful.
It is very common, and it's worked out all right for me, so very happy with it.
We mentioned in the intro the varied clubs that you've worked for in your time. You've worked for a Catholic club, a Jewish club, a couple of leagues clubs, a rugby union club and a workers club. How do they all differ, or is it very much the same role no matter where you are?
Oh, it's certainly not the same role. With clubs, they're all unique personalities. They've got their own different reasons for being. With their own personalities comes a different style of board and how they operate. So they're like children. You can have five and they could all be very different.
You kicked off at the Randwick Rugby Club, sadly no longer there. What were those days like? Obviously a decent taster for you because it led to a long-term career, but what were those days at Randwick Rugby like?
They were a lot looser, a lot more fun, I must say, than the compliance world that we're in now. But to give an example, I was there 5 years. I worked every grand final. Half of the Wallaby team was in the Randwick Rugby Club. And to give you an example of how loose it was, they had no tap beer upstairs. So the grand final night, I was lugging up cases of beer all night. And by the end of the night, all the empty cartons were in the fire stairs. So I had to go up through the main stairs, through the functions with these 3 cases of beer. And a Wallaby player who won't be mentioned now, but being big in commentary, jumped over the table, tackled me, took me out with 3 cases of beer. I run like a scared little rat because all the hyenas were having their last feed on all these cans of beer that were everywhere. So there's a very different style of club back in those days.
Oh, never let it be said that the Leather Patch Brigade don't know how to party, eh?
Exactly.
Now, you also worked at the Hakoah Club. Hakoah is an interesting club in that it's a Jewish cultural club, as most people would know. I think they're the only Jewish cultural club as a registered club in New South Wales. Pretty unique core purpose. What were those days like working at Hakoah?
A little bit more professional than Randwick Rugby. It was very different being a cultural-based religious club. Security was off the charts. Our regular door people had firearms, for example, and that was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I started there as a duty manager, and my time as the duty manager, I had 7 bomb threats on my shift. I got them all, unfortunately. So it was just a different level of operations than what I've ever experienced before.
The Hakoah Club's been closed since 2009, set to reopen in 2026. That must make you happy that club's going to reopen again?
Very much so. I know a lot of the members because a lot of the members transferred up to East Leagues, which was later on in my career. And a lot of them still had that heartbeat for Hakoah. And so for it to reopen for that community, it'd be fantastic for them.
You're probably one of the few people to have worked in a very senior role at a Jewish club and also at a Catholic club, because you went on to work at Dooley's Lidcombe Catholic Club. Very different clubs. Was the role very different? They're both religious-based clubs?
Dooley's was more of your traditional club. It didn't have the security concerns. Obviously, there was a club chaplain, which I haven't experienced anywhere else. But for the specificities of being a Catholic club, it wasn't hugely different from the others.
You spent a couple of years away from the industry, tried your hand as a pokey salesman for IGT. What were those days like?
Absolutely terrible, because I was awful at it. Couldn't sell anything. IGT didn't really have the product then, so that didn't help me as well. But what I found was that I saw a lot of clubs, and what I learnt was a lot of what to do, but also a lot of what not to do. And you saw clubs from the big ones to the small ones. So it was a good grounding educational piece on the road in the industry.
So you were only at IGT for a couple of years. You did work briefly at the casino. This is going back earlier to when the temporary casino was in place over at Pyrmont. What was that experience like?
It was exciting because it was the temporary casino, but I was there for opening. So seeing such a big property open, it was new. It was the casino opening in the state, so there was a bit of a buzz around it. But you found out you're a number of 5,000. so to speak. So you kind of got easily lost in the herd, but it was a lot of fun.
You joined the East Group in 2011. This was your first CEO's role. What was that step up from being an assistant GM or a chief operating officer to a CEO's role like?
I was very naive. I didn't think there'd be much of a difference because I was COO at Revesby Workers at the time. I kind of stumbled into that role at East quite fortuitously. And it was a lot more of a learning curve than what I thought it would be. Not only do you have the full responsibility yourself, but I've gone from more of a traditional club to a very business-orientated board as well. So I didn't realise I had to buckle up, but I certainly had to buckle up during those times.
We're going to talk about that board in a moment. You were and still are a pretty passionate Roosters fan. Some people might think, well, dream profession, you get to go and run a leagues club that's associated with the NRL club that you love. Is that the reality of the situation, or does it actually take a bit of the fun out of being a footy fan?
Oh, it takes a lot of the fun out of being a footy fan because it is my beloved Roosters and I will support them and certainly no one else. But yeah, you go to the football and there's consequences to every outcome of every match and that'll affect your week. So now I can go to the football, have a beer, enjoy, cheer. If we lose, we lose. If we win, happier. Big difference. As we see with some leagues club CEOs, there may be a time when you're asked to run the football club as well and you're operating in a dual role. How challenging was that for you, trying to balance out the needs of the leagues club and those of the football club at the same time? It's challenging on both sides because they're joined at the hip. The football club and the leagues club is almost like a marriage of convenience. Back in the time I was there, now football is a little bit more independent with the increased TV rights deals. But being a marriage of convenience, you have to make sure both are working in tandem with each other and not cannibalistic of each other. Now, when you're only looking after one, you've got to liaise with the Roosters CEO, making sure everything's working together for the group in total. Or if you're doing both, it's like a 9-day-a-week job. To give you a quick example, an 80-minute game in New Zealand that you have to attend is like 3 days out of your life. And just trying to balance everything so every little area gets the right amount of attention and love is very challenging. How do you balance out a role like that in your own personal life or family life? It must be very challenging. As I said, it was a 9-day-a-week job when you're doing both. And it's being able to hit the right points at the right time. So for football, obviously, that's game day. Make sure you're there game day. You don't contribute anything, but you're just there to say hello, do the right things. Captain's run, which is the day before games day, when the team does its final training run. You go by and you just be present at those specific times, makes a big impact. We talked about the board. I mean, it's a who's who of Australian business, really headed up by Nick Politis, but every person on that board has got runs on the board in terms of their own business careers. Some CEOs might find that environment quite intimidating. Others would see it as a real opportunity to learn from some of the best. How did you find that experience? Well, as I said, I was a bit naive, and I can go back to the interview whereby my name somehow got thrown into this mix. I don't know why, but it did. So I met the recruiter. She goes, "Oh, you seem all right. Meet the HR manager the next week." And as I said, I was a Roosters fan. HR manager put me forward. There was 3 people that was in the final round. The interview was down at Maybach Cafe at Rushcutters Bay. I had Nick Politis and Mark Boris sitting in the corner, and I only wanted to go there to meet Nick because I'm a Roosters fan. I didn't think it'll go to this length. But when you walk up to the table, in a coffee shop they have a reserve side. Well, this one was reserved for Nick. Oh, okay. I'm not in Kansas anymore. And somehow there was an 8 o'clock meeting. I was 9 o'clock and there was a 10 o'clock interview. I left that interview at 9:45, drove to Mooney. In the car park, I got the phone call, "You've got the job." Wow. So there was no muck. It was 2 weeks, a total recruitment process. So and then I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. Bit of a fun ride. I just went into the role with humility and having the ability and want to learn from obviously some of the best business people in Australia. What was Nick Politis like to work alongside with? He's obviously one of the most successful businessmen in the country. He's turned the Sydney Roosters around. What was he like to work for? Fantastic, because as we all see, some clubs choke themselves with politics. The Roosters had none of that. You always knew where you stood. As long as the job was getting done, everything was fine. There was very clear, concise directions. Nick was an immigrant from Greece when he was 6. He landed in Melbourne. They drove up to Roma in Queensland because his uncle had a coffee shop. That's where he started his life. So as a business person, it was a very simple approach, but a very effective approach. And the ability of the man to be able to get everyone on board, and his strategic thinking was second to none. He didn't think 2 moves ahead. He's thinking 10 moves ahead all the time.
You touched on it there. What life lessons, what business lessons did you learn from Nick?
Many. Just care, passion, enthusiasm, understanding. You look at any problem in a simplistic approach, get a resolution. You achieve that resolution. There certainly wasn't big PowerPoints or consultants coming in or anything else. It was just simple business done well for the betterment of the club. He only did it for the betterment of the Roosters.
You've had a career of achievements. You've listed the 2018 Roosters Premiership as the pinnacle for you. Why is that?
Because I was only looking after the Lees Club at the time, and circumstances, suddenly I get a phone call from Nick saying, mate, you're looking after the football club for the rest of the year, get down there now. And literally I was in Bondi Junction. I got in the car and went down to Moore Park at the time. Trent Robinson, the head coach, he was on his day off. He actually came in. He goes, mate, how are you going to do this, running both? Then I said, oh, well, I'm going to start thinking about it and get it done. By the end of that year, as I said, just being there at the right times, making sure everyone's trying to be working together. I didn't contribute anything, but it was just the being present and feeling like they had someone to talk to if need be. At the end of the year, I've still got it in my office now. I've got a jersey that was given to me by Trent in front of the team and staff saying, thank you for your support and leadership throughout the year. We couldn't have done it without you. The 18th man. Signed jersey in my office. So that's something that I'll treasure because that was a challenging year, but a very exceptional year to be a part of. And in regular club businesses, you don't get that highs and lows and of a football team. So it's something that I'll never experience again.
Speaking of that year, tell us about the time you were called in. It must have been in pre-season. You're called in to work on a Saturday by Nick Politis. That might be enough to put a frightener up most people. What happened during that Saturday meeting?
So I get a phone call on Friday. Now, this is Nick. I hope you got the censor button ready because you're going to need it. Nick could never do any business not over the phone. Like if there was anything happening, and when he said to me on that Friday, come down to my office tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I need to see you. I thought, well, geez, this is a bit strange. Something's up here. And I knew I was safe. He goes, don't worry, it's not you, it's about footy. I thought, okay, that's all right. So I went down there and my mind is just churning all night. What could it be? Because this is out of the ordinary. And a couple of weeks before he had a fall, hurt his shoulder, and he was in quite a lot of pain. So all those 2 weeks is like, I'm in pain, and you could hear it. All the while it's in the background, there's this speculation about where Cooper Cronk's going to go, etc. But we had signed Mitchell Pearce, re-signed him. I thought, okay, that's our halfback. We're not Cooper. Every other club was spoken about in the Sydney Basin because Cooper was moving to Sydney to be with his soon-to-be wife at that stage. And there was nothing on my radar except Nick's going to step down. That's the only thing I think of that why he'd have to get me in there. So literally he walks in, he gets me in the office. He goes, mate, we're signing Cooper. You've got to put a letter together and sign it and get it back to me. I went, that's the only time I've ever fangirled him. Oh, you're amazing. I know how you've done that, but well done. He goes, now I know it's only me, Cooper, his manager, and Robbo knows. Now you. So if it gets out, I know where it's come from.
He's coming for you.
And I was just saying, it's staying solid, boss. Don't worry about that.
So fast forward a couple of years to 2020. You've been at the Roosters since 2011. You get a phone call from the then president of Revesby Workers Club, Daryl Mellom. You'd worked there for 3 years, 2008 to 2011. Daryl wants you to come back to be CEO. Why was the time right to go, and what was appealing about going to Revesby Workers Club?
I always liked Revesby as a club. The board are always very community orientated. You don't have that push and pull of Lees Club and Football Club, and it's a genuine club. And Daryl, I'd trust with my life. So when Daryl goes, I want to catch up for a coffee, literally he said, I want you to come back. I said, done. And that's how quick it was. And this is how much I trust him. I went across to Revesby without a contract. So I resigned, came across, and it got done like 3 or 4 weeks later. That's how much I trusted Darryl. And I had my time at East. I loved the 8 years of it. It was challenging. It was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people I love and respect there. But I thought, I can't do this gig forever. So I thought, Revesby, I'm back in normal club land, you could say.
And Revesby, of course, a club that probably more than any other is known for diversification of revenue streams and profit centres. Starting back in, I think, 2009, during your first stint when the childcare centre was open, followed by a retail precinct, a medical precinct. There's a gymnasium there. There's an AMF bowling or a strike bowling upstairs. It's really the poster child of diversification. Was that part of the appeal in going back there to oversee that diversification program further?
Oh, very much so, because I got a great understanding of property and business from East. And going back and managing all those other businesses, make them more successful, more profit orientated, which is outside the club remit, is great. So I love the clubs. I love the schnitzels, the beers and the pokies, but it's a nice balance to look at other elements.
And you talk about diversification. You talk specifically about diversification of profit rather than revenue, because that is the real challenge for clubs, to reduce reliance on gaming. How difficult is that task?
It's extremely difficult. Gaming potentially will change. Well, not potentially, it will change over the years coming. There will always be changes, either taxation legislation, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to have a good balance in profit centres. Revenue, not so much, but profit centres.
Now, speaking of diversification, your acquisition of Surly's was a big part of your strategy, and the idea for that came about at lunch one day. Tell us about that.
So I was just down at Margaret Street. Went down, it was almost about 18 months ago, and I bought a shower. There was 2 champagnes and a beer and a Sahi, and it was $93. The young lady goes, "Would you like the receipt?" I said, "Hell yes, I want the receipt. I need to have a look at this stuff." And the beer was $14. And then it hit me. It was like, well, I can't sell a beer for $14 a Revesby, but the cost of product the same, and the cost of service is the same, and there's $7 more margin. There's got to be something in this. That then coupled with looking at our business, and you mentioned about diversification. So we've got 7 business units, 3 clubs, the gymnasium, the childcare, the shopping centre and other property. Out of those 7 business units, 100% of the profit, 88% of the profit still comes from Revesby workers alone. 9% comes from Healthmates, and everything just tails off after that. So you're still looking at, overall, it's about 85%, because the bowling club loses money, so that chops that down the club businesses to 85%, so 15% from non-businesses. Now, we're trying to reverse that by looking at non-core properties where we can invest in a low capital but get a high return, so to increase that profit percentage of the non-core side to balance out the business a lot better than what it is.
So that's where the idea to buy Surly's came from. Tell us, for those who don't know or haven't been there, tell us about Surly's.
Surly's is an American barbecue and dive bar in Surrey Hills. It's certainly totally the opposite of Revesby Workers. It's nothing like Revesby Workers, and I want it nothing like Revesby Workers. It's a fantastic barbecue joint bar in Surrey Hills. It does about $3.5–4 million revenue a year. So potentially, if we maintain about 10% of that, that's the goal. It's 182 Campbell Street, Surrey Hills. So it's Friday today, so it's $6 Fireball Friday. So I can shout everyone one after this. It's just trying to spread those revenue streams, profit centres out. But also it's a very similar business to what we manage, but where you don't have the pressures of it being in a club.
So it's an investment strategy that's outside the club model, and it's outside Revesby significantly. How challenging was it to get the board on board for this particular project?
That was very challenging because it's outside Revesby. Revesby is the epicentre. And one of the main hooks was not only they could see the profitability potentially from it, but also the diversification of revenues. But the board have just announced, and we've been doing this silently for 6 months, if we're going to get profits from other areas, they still want to contribute back to the community. So above and beyond our club grants obligations, the board are announcing 10% of overall business profit back to the Revesby community in donations to help charitable organisations, people in need, etc.
It is an amazing commitment from the board to go over and above to such an extent. Why is community so important to Revesby workers?
It's from the genesis. So I've got this handwritten document from Brian Higgs. He's the first secretary manager of Revesby Workers Club. And literally he wrote, in a working class area, there will always be hardships, and we can help fund these people through games nights. But the solution is to form our own club. So literally from the genesis of the being of Revesby Workers, they have always wanted to give back to community and working people especially.
How proud does it make you as the CEO to look around at the Revesby community and see the tangible impact that the Workers Club has on community life, whether it's in the area of domestic violence or junior sport? How proud are you of that legacy that the club has?
Very much so. I think junior sport is fantastic to invest in. It gets people being part of a team, and if that's in their formative years, it can potentially make them better human beings. But what we've done with the domestic violence shelter at Revesby with the assistance of other clubs is astonishing. 6,108 safe bed nights have been attributed to Biani House since its inception. Canterbury Leagues, Campsie RSL, Canterbury Helston Park RSL and Bankstown Sports also contribute to Biani House. So it's a fantastic collective of clubs making a huge difference in the Canterbury Bankstown area, which is sadly much needed.
And it's a commitment that the industry across the state increasingly is stepping up the plate to help to contribute to and to combat, which is fantastic to see. Scott, when you look at the long-term challenges for the industry, there are a few potential storm clouds on the horizon. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges for the industry across the board, not just for big clubs, but for the club industry more broadly?
Just keeping up with compliance and legislation. I think it's it's all right for the bigger clubs because we can hire the resources, engage the consultants to be able to assist in that. But my fear, and it was a similar fear I had during COVID, was that 50 to 100 machine club where usually it's the one secretary manager and a board. And not much of a management team being able to assist it. And for that level of the industry, I think there is challenges being able to maintain the pressures of compliance that's being put onto all of us.
You're obviously worried about the long-term viability of smaller clubs. Is that something you think government needs to take in mind when looking at regulating in our space, that there should be potentially a different set of rules for smaller clubs than there is for larger clubs?
Very much so. I think it needs to be based upon the revenue per machine, maybe these compliance implementations. I believe that some clubs are there for the community, but that should be preserved and they should be looked at as a different style of business to the top clubs, pubs, etc.
What do you like to do away from work, Scott? Obviously, you're pretty busy, but when you do get some time to yourself, what do you like to do?
Play golf. I enjoy the golf, even though golf doesn't enjoy me sometimes, so that's a little bit of fun. I try to run. I've done a few marathons in my time. I've done a few half marathons in my time. I also, for lack of any intelligence, collect tattoos every so often. So I've got a whole truckload of them.
Any Roosters premiership tattoos?
I do have a Roosters tattoo, yes. I did get that a couple of years ago, and it's on the back of the knee, which I don't recommend for anyone. Right? It's a little bit of a sensitive area.
And speaking of the Roosters, now you can go to games without worrying about running the whole thing or getting an earful if they don't win on the weekend. How enjoyable is it to go back to the footy now?
Oh, it's fantastic because you get to see some of the team members you used to work with, great people, but you also get to enjoy the game. Like I went Anzac Day, that's an amazing day in the calendar for rugby league. But I could actually soak up the atmosphere and enjoy the Roosters beating the Dragons and have a couple of beers as well. So it was fantastic.
What do you love most about the club industry?
I think it's the sense of community, the sense of giving back. It's not all about profits. It is generally being able to help people. Like I know during COVID, our clubs spent $2 million on wages not worked, just helping the staff get through COVID while we were closed. Not many businesses would do that. And it wasn't even a second thought for the board. They were wholeheartedly behind the program.
There's obviously a lot of competition within the industry, particularly amongst the big clubs, with other Western Sydney clubs. But there is a real collegiate attitude, isn't there, amongst clubs right across New South Wales? Do we enjoy spending time with other CEOs from other clubs?
Oh, very much so. I've got a small group. There's about 6 of us that catch up for lunch every so often. We've got a text group that anything pops up in the industry. But I don't think there is as much competition as we think. Like I've spoken to Michael at Bankstown. We had lunch lunch recently, whereby we're saying, I'm sure we share a few customers, but I don't think it's a huge amount. It's certainly not food. And so I don't think it is as competitive as what we make out to be at all.
Do you learn much travelling around the industry, looking what other clubs are trying in the food and beverage space and diversification?
Very much so. You learn from any club, pub, restaurant, etc. But I do enjoy going to the club, supporting the club industry and supporting friends in the club industry. A lot of good people work in this industry.
We'll finish off with a few questions that we ask in each and every podcast, starting with your favourite film.
It's probably this 2004 film named Crash. Crash was set after September 11 in LA, and it's the intersection of lives from different socio-economic and racial backgrounds and how they interweave with each other. Fantastic cast. Actually won the Best Picture that year, but it's one that is a little bit heavy, and the scene with the dad and the daughter always gets me, but it's one that you can watch pretty well any time. It's a quality ride.
All right, Crash. I think it's on the SBS app at the moment if people want to watch Crash, bit of cross-promotion there for SBS. Now, if you could fix one problem in the industry, what would it be?
Fix one problem? Where do we start? What I'd like to see is, so we're a very diverse industry, and what I'd like to see is more unification in getting behind the industry. See, pubs are a little bit more simple. Pubs, their reason for being is profit. That's the genesis. So it's pretty easy when publicans get together, they'll agree on that. Where clubs, there's so many different reasons for being, and there's so many different stakeholders. You talk about the size difference of clubs. You talk about the background of golf clubs, rugby league clubs, racial clubs, etc., religious clubs, sorry. And if you surveyed everyone in the industry, I don't think profit would be in the top 5 for a lot of people in the industry. So my magic wand would be try to get the industry to work better together for the collective outcome, for the good of the total industry, from big to small and the breadth in between.
And finally, why are registered clubs going to be around in 100 years' time?
Oh, well, there's a man that was dear to my heart. He sadly passed now, George Anthony. And George always used to say, the doctor's offices would be full if it wasn't for clubs. And that's, put it simply, if clubs aren't there, there's no reason for being. There's no social interaction. There's another lady that I want to draw attention to. Her name is Tiny. She was a member at East Leaks. She had her 100th birthday at East. I was invited. It was mainly her family. I think it went down to great-great-grandchildren. A lovely lady, still with us today. She's over 105 now. Plays at South Juniors, which kills me a little bit, but she lives close to there. Tiny said in her speech in front of her family, I don't need a heart machine. I don't need a lung machine. I just need my poker machine. And all it was about, and she wasn't a big gambler. It was very meagre betting. It was her ability to come out, be looked after by the staff, and interact with other people in the club.
Wonderful note on which to end there, Scott. Thanks so much for coming in and chatting to us today on the Club Life podcast.
Thanks, Darren, and let me show you that fireball.
Looking forward to it. And that's all we have time for in today's episode of the Club Life podcast. Thanks for listening. If you're a new listener, don't forget you can listen to our back catalogue of interviews. Catch up on clublife.com.au, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're consuming this podcast. Search Club Life Podcast to find us, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss a new episode. If you have a suggestion on who might make an interesting guest, get in touch with the team by emailing clublife@clubsnsw.com.au. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.